Northern Rail, perhaps one of the most hated train companies in the world, from the slow journeys to the outdated trains and the downright disgusting interiors. The company certainly has its problems, but today we'll be travelling on what commuters say is their worst train, the Pacer. With a design based on a really old bus, we'll be riding this bouncy train on a typical commuter journey. Join me to see if it's really as bad as they say. Welcome to the modern Manchester Piccadilly station, situated right in the heart of Britain's second largest city. This station serves tens of thousands of travellers every day, including many who commute on Northern Rail, the main local operator in the city and much of the north. Heading inside, we're met with a good selection of shops. This includes WH Smith's, a few places to grab a drink, as well as a bank and a supermarket. More options are available upstairs, but at the time of filming, this area was closed. Manchester Piccadilly boasts 14 platforms for its many departing trains. Most of these are terminal platforms, accessible directly from the main concourse. My train today will be the 0840 Northern service to Rosehill Marple. We'll be departing from platform 2, but first there's an automatic ticket inspection, which didn't actually work. After getting through the gate line, I can't see any Pacer trains. I was getting worried that they weren't running today, when I spotted one hiding away at the far end of the platform. Due to accessibility regulations at the time of filming, the Pacer fleet was only allowed to operate when attached to an accessible train, in this case a Class 150 Sprinter unit. Anyway, it's time to board our bus-like train. Even the doors on the Pacer resemble those of a bus. But we'll go into the train's history and design a little later on in the video. This Pacer, like most, is formed of two carriages. My upper class followers will be delighted to find out that first class can be found on a different train company. Back to reality though, this Pacer has seating in a 2+2 layout. Numerous interior designs exist, including the 2+3 bench seating, which was particularly unpopular on long journeys, believe me. With the doors closing shortly before departure, it's time to have a look at today's route. For this journey, we travel east out of Manchester Piccadilly, before heading south from Guide Bridge, finally turning off for the Rosehill branch. This journey is scheduled to take just half an hour to cover the 12 miles or about 19 kilometres. We depart on time at 0840. Leaving behind one of the UK's biggest stations. At this point, you can hear the first problem with this train. Sorry about that, headphone users.
Welcome on board, this is the 0840 Northern service to Rosehill Marple.
As we start to build speed, the train soon starts bouncing around too. To understand why this is, we have to go back to when these trains were designed. Our story goes back to the 1960s, with the development of the high-speed freight vehicle, a flat four-wheeled freight wagon. In the 1970s, the British bus manufacturer Leyland had just begun manufacturing its latest model, the Leyland National. Later that same decade, British Rail and Leyland placed a modified bus body on the high-speed freight vehicle, thus making the first prototype rail bus. This design evolved over the years, and eventually, in 1985, the first Class 142 Pacer entered service. Anyway, we're soon arriving at our first station, Ashbury's. Stations on this route are frequent, with it being part of Manchester's commuter railway network. Now that we're back on the move, I think it's time to have a look at the dreaded interior of this infamous bus train, starting off of course with the seats. These seats are actually reasonably comfortable, with a fair amount of padding. They won't win any awards, but they're acceptable for shorter journeys like this. And the headrest is extremely soft. As for legroom, well, it's tight, but I've definitely seen worse. That is, unless you end up with this weird seat. To be honest, there's not a lot to say about this seat. It just is what it is. There's no armrests, or seat back tables. It's just a bunch of seats tightly packed together. What I couldn't ignore was just how much of a poor condition the train was in, with various stains of God knows what over many of the seats. Also, there was a puddle of water on the floor. These trains are known for leaking from time to time. Perhaps strangest of all, I found what looked to be a former seatbelt holder between seats. Now I know these trains are rough, but that seems a tad dramatic. Finally, some seat cushions just aren't attached to the base for some reason. We've just left Guide Bridge, meaning we now head south on the line for Hyde and Romiley. As you may have guessed, this isn't Britain's best looked after railway, meaning the suspension of the old pacer is definitely having trouble. We are now arriving into Hyde North, one of 6 stations to serve the town. With a population of just 34,000, Hyde must have one of the highest amounts of stations per person anywhere in the UK. Time to brave the rickety corridor connection to have a look at the toilet. Being a 2-car train, the Pacers have just one toilet. I'm sure I don't need to be the one who tells you that you can't get a wheelchair in here. Whilst not totally filthy, it's pretty battered. Just look at all this rust. But worst of all, the contents of this toilet just end up on the track. Bins can be found at the central end of both carriages, tucked away behind a seat. The Pacer train is really quite odd, with seats seemingly just put wherever they will fit. There's also many telltale signs of its strange design history, such as the cab window rather clumsily overflowing into the passenger area. And speaking of the driver's cab, in case you were wondering, no, there's not a steering wheel or pedals, just standard train controls. As for luggage space, it's a little bit weird. One side of the carriage has no storage for luggage, but the other side has an overhead luggage rack. Presumably people who travel forwards don't need anywhere to store their bags. So now on to how much today's journey cost. For this trip, I bought a peak time return ticket at a cost of £4.60. This includes my 16 to 25 railcard discount of 1/3. Whilst not particularly cheap for a journey of this length, it is roughly what I'd expect to pay on a commuter route such as this one. We are now arriving at Romiley. The station is located between 2 junctions. On the western side are 2 separate lines to Manchester, with the eastern side featuring the railway to Sheffield via New Mills and the short branch to Rosehill Marple. From here, we briefly catch a glimpse of the Peak Forest Canal, a mode of transport that even predates the railways in the region. This canal was first opened all the way back in 1796, long before the railway opened in 1862. Next, the train passes over the Marple Viaduct, which runs parallel to the Marple Aqueduct, carrying the Peak Forest Canal. This is where the train leaves the line to Sheffield via New Mills and heads down the branch to Rosehill Marple. So, is the Pacer really as bad as people say? Well, it's difficult to give a fair answer from this journey alone. Oftentimes, these trains would be a lot busier than the 2 I've filmed. These trains even ended up on some longer routes too, with it not being unheard of to find these bus-like contraptions on 4-hour trips. Also, over the years, these trains have got into a really bad condition, with the inside being filthy and worn out, whilst the outside is rusting away. Nowadays, Northern's Pacer fleet has been completely replaced, with both older Sprinter units, but also brand new trains built by CAF in Spain. As for where these trains are now, the majority of the fleet were scrapped from 2019. However, at least 30 of the units are known to still exist, many of these in use on preserved railways, allowing many future generations to come and enjoy the novelty of these much maligned trains. We arrive at Rosehill Marple with a delay of 2 minutes at 09:12. Personally, I don't really mind these trains, and actually prefer them to the Class 150 Sprinter trains that replaced them, which I think have less pleasant interiors and are far more cramped. Once the bus doors are released, we're free to leave the train at Rosehill Marple. So, what do you think of the Pacer? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and for another, even older train service, then you'll want to see my video on the last steam train in Europe, so click up here now to continue the journey.